And we're back with another episode of Trigger Day of the podcast. Welcome back. We're feeling really good today. We're on a roll, and we are just so excited to keep having these dynamic, hopefully helpful conversations that can keep moving the culture forward and keep promoting deep healing. Today, we have business coach and the CEO of Built to Impact, Ms. Maya Elious, with us.
Yay!
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today so we can talk a little bit about never giving up on yourself and just realizing that it's never too late to be exactly who you were destined to be.
Absolutely.
I'm excited.
Yes. Me and you both, because what I have come to find is there's a lot of people feel like once you get to a certain age or a certain phase or a certain place in your life, like there are just some things that are off limits to you. Like one of the major things being like for those who want to become mothers, like motherhood. And it's like, no, we really do have so many more options now. Whether you want to carry it or not carry it, whether you want to adopt, whether you want to freeze your eggs, like we really do have a lot more options now. And we don't have to just take things out of possibilities for us because we feel it's too late.
Yeah.
So this conversation is going to tap all the way into that. So I hope you get real uncomfortable. I hope you acknowledge the pieces and parts of yourself that you've decided that just aren't possible for you. And you're able to see that, okay, maybe there is a different version of whatever the story is that I've told myself that I can tap into. So we're about to hop on in.
Let's do it.
Now, we have had, and every single one of our guests, because they're so multi-hyphenate, they do so many things. The one question that we ask for every single one of our guests is, out of all of the accolades, the titles, the awards, and everything else, outside of all the things that you do, who is it that you say you are?
I just say I'm Maya Elious. You know, that's who I am. That's my name. Daughter, auntie. I love being Auntie Maya. My nieces and nephew are so cute, and sister. So that's who I am every day.
Okay, I love it. You are who you are. Yeah, I love that.
And like we were talking about, a lot of people believe after a certain age, you're no longer valuable. And certain things are just out of reach for you. It's just not an option anymore. Just give it up already. You know, there's even online, there's a lot of people who make fun of people who are trying to venture into new things after a certain age. So how would you suggest that we kind of shift our perspective to believe in new opportunities at every stage, at every phase, at every age that we're at, so that we don't start counting ourselves out too early?
Yeah, I think that's such a good question. I think there's two parts to it, and two things to understand: that as long as you have breath in your lungs, you have purpose in your life.
Yeah.
As long as you have breath in your lungs, you have purpose in your life. And so you are valuable, and you are, created to do something meaningful. And I think, the other part of that question is like, well, how do you know if, it's too late for you or if you're too old? Just because something may not be possible for you anymore, it doesn't make you any less valuable. And I think we continue to tie our value to what we can and cannot do. And it's like, you're just valuable because.
Period.
Because. Hard stop.
That's it. Hard stop. And then so what you decide to do with that is then up to you, based on what your opportunities are, what you have access to. But I do think that oftentimes we assume that things aren't possible for us, like you guys were saying. And there's parts to it where it's like, what's the actual reality? What are the actual facts? Because sometimes we say, like, I feel like this is not possible for me. I feel like this is not true for me. And it's like, well, feelings aren't facts. So let's look at the actual facts.
Yeah.
Right? Is this true? And in the slim chance that it is true and it's not possible for you, how can we then operate with just acceptance? And I think that's something that's really hard for us to do. Just acceptance around where we are right now. Because the sooner you can accept, the sooner you can pivot into doing what you can still do with what you have.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think sometimes, yes, it's never too late, but we also don't want to lean into delusion, where there are some just factual things that with age will be an issue. Like, it is very difficult for a 65-year-old woman to have a child. It's almost impossible. She may not have any eggs. I mean, there are rare cases, but sometimes you have to understand when something is the exception versus the rule. Yeah. And I know that for some of us, you kind of want to find a balance between, hey, like finding a way without getting so delusional that you're now like pursuing something that really just might be not possible at this stage in your life. So it's like, you gotta kind of figure that out.
There is that fine line for sure.
There is.
I like a little delusion myself.
That's why I said balance, not completely none, but I think leaning too far into that can also be harmful. Going either way too much is not good, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yes and no. I feel like acceptance of the status quo is the most traveled road to mediocrity. Mm-hmm. If I just agree that certain things are no longer possible for me, no matter the age, then I count myself out. A 65-year-old woman can absolutely have a child. I didn't say she had to birth the child. She can absolutely have a child. She can adopt said child. Sure. She can go into foster care. So for me, I feel like living in a place of delusion, I am delusional as fuck about my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I am delusional as they get. In my mind, if I want it, I will have it. That is just that on that. Period. Hard stop. There is no balance. It is straight delusion. Mm-hmm. That might or might not be good. I mean, we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. You know, you can make an argument for anything. Right?
Yeah,
which is good and bad. Yeah. Right? Because then it goes into delusion. It's like, okay, girl. I mean, if you want a brand new kid at 65,
like, go ahead.
And then you start to look at. Then I also think like that, like. You know, I start to think like I have more access to things now that I'm like more successful, I have more money. And what I have to be mindful is that just because I can do something doesn't mean that it's beneficial to me.
I agree with that.
And 100%. I wish, this is why I gotta like read my Bible more consistently, because I wish I remembered the verse that says that. Like everything is possible, but everything is not beneficial.
Expedient.
Yeah. Yes. Everything is not beneficial. So it's like, why would I be trying to have a 2-year-old? Why would I be trying to adopt a 2-year-old at 65? And this is not judging. This is just a very clear example.
Right.
So
the energy, the things that are in place are going to make
there are some things that are possible, but is it purposeful? And so I think we need to really just start asking ourselves, what is God's purpose for me right now in this season? Because I might be trying to chase something that I thought I should have been doing at 25, and at 35, you don't need that anymore. Yeah. And God's really calling you to dream and vision bigger, but you're still stuck on that old dream that's smaller than what He really wants for you.
Oh, I love that. That is such a good point.
Yeah, I really, I can vibe with that. Yeah. I'm going to still be delusional, but I also do agree everything is not expedient for you. Like, it does not make sense. Yes, I do believe that all things are possible for me. And also, if I'm being honest, y'all know I'm not the biggest fan of motherhood, so I definitely don't want a 2-year-old at any age at this point. Not at 36, not at 37, not at 47. I'm just not a fan of it. For me, myself personally, love my kid, and also no real desire to have any more unless absolutely necessary. So I do like that. Is it purposeful for you?
Yeah.
Because what's purposeful for you might not be purposeful for me. It might not be purposeful for you, but getting clear on what am I supposed to do? Yeah. What is it supposed to look like for me? How am I, or how is God's will in my life supposed to be executed or brought into this experience through my actions? I think is absolutely where we start. Yeah. Especially with figuring out, is this too late? Because I also believe too, that if you don't use it, God really does take it and give it to somebody else. It's you gonna have to make a decision, put up or shut up. And sometimes that whole, well, I want things to be picture perfect. I want this to work a certain way. We can get caught up in what that perfection of what our story in our head of what we told ourselves it should look like. So has there been a time when you've had to adjust how you thought the dream would look so that you can actually reconcile the feelings that you have around, well, shoot, this is different. Yeah. Like, has there been a time that you've had to deal with the new dream in the different ways that it'll look?
Yeah. I mean, as you grow and just learn more every day, you realize, man, I thought I wanted something, or I thought I was ready for something, and I'm really not. And it can be challenging because sometimes we get so married to the idea of something, where we get so married to the vision of something, and you have to grieve that old idea. And I think that's the challenging part, where we don't want to grieve it. And then sometimes we might live in delusion a little bit longer than necessary or whatever it is. And we're still fighting for things that it's just not accessible to us anymore. Not because it's not possible, because it's just not in alignment with that season that you're in. But I've been through things like that where I might have thought, oh, this is what I want for my business. And then I go through a season and I'm like, this is absolutely what I don't want. Or even in relationships, in my 20s, all I really cared about was is this the relationship for me? Is this going to be my husband? And then when it doesn't work, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. I'm depressed for 2 weeks and then I have to start all over again. And in hindsight, now that I have more wisdom, I'm like, thank God
Oh
I didn't marry any of those people, because I was not ready. They were not the ones for me. You know, not to say they're bad people. It just was not in alignment. Yeah. And sometimes we fight so hard to keep our limitations. I was fighting so hard to settle, and thank God.
Fighting to settle, right?
Yes.
That's the thing.
I just got chills.
Fighting to settle. That's a powerful thing to say, because we don't even realize that that's exactly what we're doing. Because it doesn't feel like it, but we're holding on so tight.
I mean, tight, death grip. Like, no, I want this person who is subpar.
Yeah, just to say we're a girlfriend, or just to say we're like, just have a title. And it's like, do you want the title, or do you want like the feeling? Do you want the respect? Do you want truly what's in alignment with your vision? Yeah, the full experience.
Yeah. Ooh, that was good. Y'all, I don't know if y'all feeling this, but
yeah. And we have that. I think we have that challenge of like wanting to hold on to things. But another challenge we have, especially in this day and age, and you having such a strong online presence, is people and their opinions. Like, everybody is an expert about everything. They have all the opinions. They're just an expert on everybody else's life.
Oh yeah.
Okay. They have all the advice for you. Yeah. Right. And their life might be in shambles, but for you, I can tell you what to do. Right. And I think sometimes and I play devil's advocate probably way too much, but I think it comes from a good place sometimes. Like, I think people think they're trying to help, and it's just misguided as hell. But I would like to believe that people are trying to come from a place of love. No, it's not love.
Everything everybody does is for them. We are selfish creatures.
I'm about to say, it's not coming from a place of love most of the time.
Some people are.
How are you telling somebody? So I've seen some wild comments, right?
Oh my gosh.
How are you telling somebody, I think you're stupid and you need to shut up? How is that?
That's how their parents talk to them. Girl, they don't know how else to talk to people.
That's not a loving place.
But anyway, the point is overall that we are just so bombarded with everyone else's opinions. And sometimes it's really hard to even hear your own opinion about yourself. So especially, like I said, with you having a strong online presence, how did you learn to kind of tune into your own voice to make sure that you do stay in alignment and you do walk in your purpose and not what somebody else wants for you?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think it's something I'm even still learning, right? These are conversations that I have with my therapist. Like, you need to learn how to trust your own voice, right? Because even if it's not from people online, it might even be people that are really close to me that are well-meaning, right? They have, good intentions for me, but it's
now, they are probably well-meaning.
Yes, those people online are well-meaning, right? And so you gotta be mindful, because again, everything everybody does is for them, flat out, period. We are selfish creatures. So even when I'm kind to somebody because being kind makes me feel good. So even when people are good, even when they're generous, one of my top core values is generosity. When I'm generous to people, yes, I want them to feel good, but it ultimately makes me feel good.
Yeah, it's good for you.
So you just have to be really mindful of, like, they have great intentions, all of that. They're giving me this advice, but what do I ultimately desire? When I say this is a question my therapist probably asked me for 18 months straight, and it was so hard for me to answer, especially as a recovering people pleaser, you really have to be honest. What do I want? Because then when you take advice, you filter it through, does this advice get me closer to what I want, or does it take me further away?
And do you even have what I want to help me get there?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So if you don't know that first answer, you're not going to know which direction to take that advice, because it can only go in two ways. It's closer or further.
Literally. And that's really good. And I like that. So make sure y'all remember that, like, every time someone gives you advice on something you should do or a place you should move, after you check in with your gut, asking yourself, does this get me closer to what I want? Or does it get me further away? Because then now you have a barometer or a measuring stick that you can, like, okay, yes, or okay, no, or okay, maybe not at this time too. Because timing does matter, even though it's not ever too late. God is a God of second chances. If you don't believe in God, okay, whatever. You always got another opportunity, as long as you're breathing, to figure some stuff out. And you can always go back to it.
But don't waste time.
Don't listen, because
just because you have time doesn't mean you should waste it.
I agree,
because it's too valuable.
Yes, it is so valuable. And there are, in my belief, especially now when you have people, they look and they'll see maybe the awards and the successes and all the things, and they feel like once you get to a certain point that, things are perfect, there are no more fears, everything you attempt is just this successful, wildly amazing thing. And it's like,
Not
all the time.
Yeah.
So what have been like some of your biggest fears in starting something new and transitioning and changing and maybe going back to what you thought, okay, I'm done with that, but maybe I'm not. Like, what have been some of those and how have you worked through those fears?
Yeah. I mean, I think as you get bigger, the risks become more as well. You have more to lose, right?
Oh,
so I'm like, I always say I was probably the most courageous in my business when I didn't really have much to lose. Before I had the big following, before there was a lot of comparison on social media. Like I first started, in the branding industry before Instagram was even around. When with Facebook, you still had to use a college.edu email address. Twitter was brand new. So there wasn't really a lot of comparison. It was like, I was so shameless and I was so courageous back then because it's like, I mean, if I fail, nobody's really going to see.
What's the worst thing
right?
happen?
But as you get bigger, it's like, dang, am I going to fail in front of 70,000 people? Like, am I going to fail in front of, 70,000 followers? But now it's just kind of like, you just got to take it day by day, like when you are scared. But the good thing is, as you get bigger, you get to a certain level of success by navigating failure. So you learn how to deal with failure and fears much better. It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. It just means you're so much wiser on how you navigate it. So there's definitely some things that I've tried and been nervous about, like, will this work? How will I look? But I have to go back to like, Maya, you can't worry about what other people are thinking or doing or saying because you're the only one that's responsible for your bills,
Exactly.
So...
And those opinions damn sure don't pay them.
Right.
Listen, that honestly, that is how, because Danny says all the time, like, you just really don't care what people think and how they feel about you. And I'm like, absolutely not. If you were not coming over here and I trust you enough to watch my child, to like speak life into me, to pay a bill, because it's a whole lot of them, y'all. I got a lot of bills. I'm accepting applications to pay them. But if you're not coming to assist me with that, then I'm sorry, your opinion is just that. Your opinion. I'm so glad and grateful that you have it. And also, you don't get to impress your opinion or belief on what I should do onto me.
Yeah, especially because a lot of people's opinions come from a place of lack. Like when, again, when I was like starting my business, I was in college and I eventually dropped out, but I was really, really scared to drop out because I'm first generation American. I have two parents who came to this country with the intention of like living the American dream. And so their opinion I absolutely valued because they are the two people who are closest to me. They kept me alive. My dad's still paying some of my bills at this point.
Hallelujah.
Listen, because I was so, so young during this time. But also, a lot of the fears that they had were just projections based on the level of wisdom that they had, or experiences, I should say, that they had, and based on their vision. Like, you have to think they didn't grow up with the privileges that they gave me. Yeah. So they're just not seeing things from the perspective that I have. So you also exactly
at all costs.
Yeah. So giving grace to some people, not everybody, because not everybody gets to have an opinion, but also really being mindful of who you ask for advice and wisdom from and opinions from. I don't often ask for advice. I usually tell people about things after I did it. And then they can tell me, I'm like, it's already done. Because I don't like for my vision to be tainted by people's limited thinking.
I
so
like
you'll
to
usually
wait.
find things out after the fact when it comes to me.
My mother used to get very upset with that because she'd be like, what do you mean you did it? I was like, I told her I was moving to New York after I had already sold the house, after like I had already booked the moving company. And I was like, oh yeah, mommy, by the way, I'm moving to New York. We leave in a couple weeks, Yeah. What do you mean?
Yeah, that's already such a huge decision. And then to have somebody else's doubt on top of any level of fear.
I'm the same way. Like, let me just get through this.
Let
me process. Yeah, I'm a big processor. And because I know, especially people who are close to me, I know it'll get to me. So I'm just like, let me just do this. And then I'll just talk to you about it later. And then we can go from there because it will sway me. Like, and sometimes we don't want to admit it. Like, no matter how old you are, your parents, your siblings, those aunts, those uncles that have always had an influence on you. Yeah. Yes, you can kind of filter and navigate it more, but if you're being real, like, it can still sway you and affect you. So I've had to learn about them. Yeah, I've had to learn to just be like, I'm just gonna, hey guys, I moved, and they're like, what?
Right.
And then I think it also helps them build trust in you. And trust your ability and your decision making skills, so that they will, like, I don't have that pressure that I have from my family anymore. Like, when it's just like, I'm grown, I'm a mom, like, there's not really much that you can really come to tell me that it's not clear that I've already kind of navigated on my own with all the tools that you've given me in childhood and in my adolescence. And I think it starts to build confidence between both of you when you just kind of make those decisions. Hopefully they go good. If they don't go good, it's nice sometimes, I think, if they can see you navigate it with a little grace.
Yes.
And then maybe you can lean on them a little bit. But I think that more parents and like authority figures in your life should kind of like trust that they've equipped you, hopefully, with the tools to kind of navigate things. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Like what you just heard? Want some more?
Make sure you're subscribed for the full access, behind the scenes, community view on our Patreon. Or if you love Apple, you can also subscribe there. And you can do so by going to triggeredafpodcast.com. You can use the top banner, or you can go ahead and click those first 2 buttons to subscribe exactly where you want to.
Continue to share all of our podcasts with your friends, with your family members, and you can continue to watch just 30 minutes on YouTube now. So if you want the full episode, you better subscribe.
We will see you soon as a member of our tribe. We cannot wait to continue these conversations. Bye, Trigger Happy Fam.